better find out where I'm at. Good morning. We are here for our weekly Board of Commissioners meeting. It is Wednesday, May 15th. And by the way, if you have a third quarter property tax payment, it is due today.
Good job.
Right?
Good reminder.
Right. I know I buried mine and found it yesterday and went, oops. Okay, we're here in the Senator Hearing Room at 555 Court Street Northeast. And as always, we start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join us. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. And Commissioner, we're going to need a motion this morning to, we're going to take item number 12 off of action and move it to the consent calendar.
Okay.
I believe that's the plan.
And then, Mr. Chair, I move that we move agenda item number 12 under the Assessor's Office from action to the consent agenda. That is to consider a resolution for fiscal year 2024-25 County Assessment Function Funding Assistance Grant.
Okay, I'll second the motion. Any further discussion? Just to say that we do this every year and we didn't want our assessor to have to come down and explain this complicated procedure, so. Any further discussion?
Sitting there.
Well, we told you didn't have to come down this morning.
I think they were just thinking just in case.
Go back and, well, that's right, you don't collect the taxes, you just assess the taxes, so. All right, any further discussion?
We're happy for your announcement.
All right, hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay, so that is moved to, it will be item, right, under consent calendar. Okay.
Reading.
We have nobody signed up, Noni, for public comment this morning, so we will move into our proclamation. Our first proclamation is consider approval of designating the week of May 12th through the 18th, 2024 as Facilities Management Week in Marion County. And I saw this tray of really wonderful eats coming down the elevator this morning, and I was going, am I going to board session or am I going to go follow Tamara? Where'd you take all that good food?
Good morning, Commissioner. Tamara Getch, Director for Business Services. Some of those treats that you saw are going to be going out to the various sites throughout Marion County in honor of our teams. Both our facilities teams that take care of our maintenance and grounds, etc., as well as this evening they'll be going to some of our custodial sites.
Fantastic.
Yes.
It looked very healthy too. I think I saw
I
some.
tried
I think I
because
saw
I do
some
have a couple
watermelon
of
in
folks
there.
that I kind of do candy bars a lot, and I just like, okay. So yes, there are some healthy snacks in there, and some not so healthy snacks in there. So good morning, Commissioners. Again, Tamara Getch. I'm the Director for Business Services, and I have the pleasure of working with a great team of facility professionals that really do a outstanding job to provide support to our buildings as well as meet and greet our customers' needs. We are here today to talk about the World Facility Management Day. This was initially started in 2009 by an organization who recognized this profession as an essential part of many organizations in our community, and in fact in every community. We have hospitals, counties, cities, we have restaurants, etc., that all rely on trades who are skilled and talented to provide the services on a day in and day out basis. Here at Marion County, we have a small team. We have a even smaller representation here today, but I appreciate that they took the time here to be recognized for what they do. Marion County's team consists of 11 building specialists, so they take care of all of the maintenance needs that we need. If a contractor is needed outside of that, they work with the appropriate folks to make sure that they come and handle those needs so that our operations run smoothly. We have 2 electricians, and they take care of all the sparky things in our buildings and make sure that we are running smoothly there as well. Our 17 custodial members are working behind the scenes day in and day out. In the evenings, they work swing. They're in our buildings late at night. And anything that happened during the day, miraculously, it disappears overnight, and we come back to a clean facility. In our facility administration, we have a project coordinator who handles all of the projects that we have, large capital projects, as well as one facility analyst who really takes care of the front end of those. Both of those individuals are well seasoned in their trades and talents, and they bring forward a lot of different things to our customers as things arise. Sometimes we have a couple of teams that are out moving systems furniture this morning because our customers are needing a new configuration, just as an example. We also have a facility and maintenance and systems coordinator. He helps us to manage our computerized maintenance system that's electronic, and so that we can take care of all the work orders that our customers put in day out. We have 2 groundskeepers, and right now as of Monday, we hired a 3rd. He is our new supervisor, so I'm really excited for bringing him on and helping us get those properties into shape for the summer. We also have a control clerk who takes care of all of the ordering and managing of inventory. And on top of that, we have 3 supervisors that oversee the staff and 1 facility manager who makes decisions on our facilities. This team that I just talked about help us to maintain of nearly 740,000 square feet of properties, buildings that we maintain throughout the year. And those 3 individuals, now 3 individuals, taking care of nearly 100 acres of land. So they take on a lot of work, and we appreciate them. I appreciate them for what they do day in and day out. The men and women of our team in Marion County have a lot to be proud about. We all have room to grow and to look for new opportunities, and that's one thing I know for being here as long as I have. Things change around here, and so our team are nimble, they are ready for the challenge, and I just want to say thank you all for not only being here but showing up each and every day and making a difference, not only for our customers here within Marion County, but the public at large. So today, Commissioners, I am asking for your consideration for approving a proclamation in their honor.
Okay. It's good to see you all here this morning. Yeah.
I really prefer the barbecue when we see everybody at the barbecue.
Yeah, that kind of food brings everybody in.
Well, I was just going to say, I'm glad so many of y'all showed up, because I know you have real work to do. And so I appreciate you coming and spending time with us.
There's food after this, too.
That's good.
For us?
Well,
All
come see
right.
me.
I have no
can
time
make
to
it.
eat.
Well, Commissioner, you want to
want me to
move the
start?
proclamation?
Oh.
Sure.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I move that we approve a proclamation designating the week of May 12th through the 18th, 2024 as Facilities Management Week in Marion County.
I second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Okay, if you'd start us off.
Okay. In the matter of proclaiming the week of May 12th through 18th, 2024, as Facilities Management Week in Marion County, a proclamation. This matter came before the Marion County Board of Commissioners at its regularly scheduled public meeting on May 15th, 2024. Whereas facilities management is a critical strategic business discipline which integrates people, places, and processes within a built environment with the purpose of improving the quality of life for people and the productivity of the core business, and
Whereas World Facility Management Day aims to recognize the efforts of the facility management profession anywhere that facility management professionals influence the health, safety, productivity, and well-being of people who utilize the built environment. And whereas facility management professionals, whether government or private sector, continually learn about and implement best practices to keep facilities opened and maintained in a safe manner. And
Whereas we are grateful for the contributions that facility management professionals make on a daily basis to infrastructure, the safety of Marion County residents, and our economy. And now therefore be it resolved, the Marion County Board of Commissioners ask everyone to join to thank Marion County facilities management professionals who serve in these roles throughout our county and proclaim May 5th through the 11th, 2024 as Facilities Management Week, dated at Salem, Oregon, this 15th day of May, 2024. All right. If you'll come on up and we'll get a photograph, and you got the proclamations here?
read them out.
Hey.
I'm gonna stay on the end and try not to.
I can't even tell you.
Yeah, you gotta go like this. There you go. There you go. Sideways in. Maybe I'll stand behind.
I'm sure you were. I was here too.
Squish.
Come on.
Squish.
Well, good.
Suck it up. Suck it up, big guy.
Come on in.
You go in the middle. I stood down there for a reason.
Actually, yeah.
There you go. He doesn't want to stand by me, is what he was trying to say earlier.
Wait a minute. Do they have an OSHA guy in here?
No.
3, 2, 1.
A step
We
stool
need to
would be
get
great.
John a ladder.
Thank you all. I just don't want to struggle with that this year. And I honestly think it's the baby. I have a granddaughter, and she lives with me now, and she's constantly sick.
You're going to have the best immune system. Just
You
look
know-
on the bright side.
No, you just get
Thank you. Which one of you guys is the elevator tech? None of it? I saw him. It was kind of scary. I looked down the shaft when he was there. All right. That one is a good one. All right. We are going to go to our second proclamation, which is to declare May 12th through the 18th, again, as National Police Week in Marion County. And I see some people with like shiny badges.
Some of them are hiding.
Oh, and some of them have ties on.
I know
So,
the sheriff's back there. I saw him when I came around the corner.
Can you pass it back?
who's this go to?
There you
Danielle
go.
or
There's the
Brenda.
shiniest badge. Thank you. Did you sign this?
Which is it? Is that the,
This is, I've been holding this up, the white.
I got it this morning.
Yep.
Good morning,
Could you get that
Commissioners.
map as soon as
My name is
possible?
Jason Bernards. I'm the Enforcement Commander for the Marion County Sheriff's Office. And today, we're here to talk about the proclamation for National Police Week. I'll let you go ahead.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Lieutenant Matt Wilkinson with the Enforcement Division for Marion County Sheriff's Office.
So National Police Week was first established in 1962 by then President John F. Kennedy. It's an annual event dedicated to honoring the service and sacrifice of our law enforcement officers across the U.S., but specifically today we're talking about Marion County. I know the board is well aware of the dedication, resiliency, and sacrifice that our men and women of the Sheriff's Office make on a daily basis. from the fires, the natural disasters that we've had, the ice storms. These men and women are out here to make our county safe on a nightly basis. They put themselves in harm's way constantly, and I'm humbled to be a part of that office and to lead them on a daily basis. So I can give you a ton of examples of their dedication and their service. Just one example is last night at 3 o'clock in the morning, one of our graveyard deputies made a traffic stop. After short for pursuit and a short fight with that suspect, we recovered 2 stolen guns in the East Salem Service District last night. So, and that's just one example of what our folks do on a nightly basis. So I would just ask that you guys would join us in approving that proclamation this morning.
I forgot. I was gone all last week with Commissioner Cameron at a timber conference. And I was totally going to ask for Shermanov and her dog to be here today.
Oh.
He's a great canine. I met him at the PSB a few weeks ago. He would have sat right up here with us, for sure. Tried to talk on camera.
He's a sweetheart.
Yeah, he was with you for a bit, right?
He was, yeah.
I forget his name.
Marco.
Marco.
Yeah,
We have great canines,
we do.
and I've met them all, but I really liked him. And he's a police officer, so I feel like he should have been here. Maybe next year, Brendan. Let's make sure we get a canine in here. The
We'll make
sheriff
it
is frowning
happen.
at me. Yeah.
So, I'm the PCDD. Do you want to take that away from me?
Yes.
What does that mean?
I mean, I don't know what it is, but I'll do it.
Permanent Commissioner Dog Dummy.
Nope, I do not want that. Just kidding.
I've been in that suit. I hadn't been in it for a while, Jason.
been
We
a
could
while.
arrange that
We
in
can.
here on TV,
There's actually a
Move
plaque
that
up there
table.
with a picture of me in that suit. And, I've been,
It's been offered to me several times, and I just have to say, the little amount of wisdom
for
I
it.
have in life, I say no thanks. And I'm still going to stand with no thanks.
yeah.
The Marion
Right.
County Fair is coming up, so
And I'll be there Thursday, Friday, I think, for sure.
sounds like we might have a deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
As long as it's not 100 degrees, I'll get in the suit.
Yeah,
Things
don't
on.
blame you
Yeah. Well, Lieutenant, do you have anything to add?
No, just following with Commander Bernard's, is it is humbling to have this week and look at the things that our police officers do and recognizing their sacrifice. This also was a week that we recognized Sergeant Miller for his sacrifice, and his name was placed on the wall at DPSST, and many of our deputies went to Washington DC for that memorial as well, so, yes.
Yeah, well, thank you for your service, both of you, and for all the men and women who do this every day. And I know we've all experienced different levels of what you do, but never on a daily basis like you guys do it. And what I really appreciate about Marion County Sheriff's Department, starting at the top, and the sheriff's pretty humble, he's sitting back there letting you guys come up here and speak, but is that, it kind of reminds me of a Labrador Retriever. I've had labs all my life, and they're just great, friendly people, dogs, right? But when they get in the duck blind, they're like, right? And I just noticed that about, I don't mind to compare, especially you, to a Labrador Retriever.
I mean, sorry, Lieutenant, but
But my point is, we've gotten emails from people that got tickets and how nice they were treated when they got the ticket, right?
probably not from our current traffic team. Very postured.
But, the things that you do from a PR standpoint and are really awesome, because I know that you get, a lot of negative stuff too. And to stay positive and friendly to the general public is just a testament to the type of individuals that you hire and how you train. I know that, I worked out this morning with my trainer out at South River Road, and he's really interested in joining Marion County Sheriff's. And he doesn't have a public safety background or degree or whatever, but the personality and the physical things that it takes to do what you do. And I think as we've struggled to hire over the last few years, it seems like there's a drift now back towards finding people that are ready to serve in public safety, and that's good in the example that you set. So thank you very much. Yeah, appreciate it.
Thank you. Feel free to give him my number.
For the record, we are hiring.
Well, Connie's trying to recruit him, I think, into parole and probation, and I'm saying, no, he needs to go. Yeah.
She has the upper hand. Maybe you should start working
Right.
out at the courthouse there,
There you go.
Lieutenant.
Exactly. I need it.
Mr. Chair, as I was thinking about this recently, it's different. Now that I've been a commissioner as long as I've been, I've gotten to know a lot of our deputies kind of more on a personal level. And it does sort of change how you understand the work that they do, that these are husbands and wives and brothers and sisters and friends. And I also, I want to echo what you said about the character of the people we have. They are leaders in our various communities, whether it's in Jefferson or Sublimity or in the East Salem Service District, because they're the kind of people that you can trust. And I think you said it right, Commissioner Cameron, where it was a unique analogy you used, but nonetheless, just really good people, big hearts, but also very courageous when you need them to do the things that we trust them to do. So I've grown in sort of my understanding of the work that you do, and I'm grown in my appreciation of it.
I just got past a question.
I can ask
Oh,
it.
yeah.
Can you tell us the story of how the sheriff's office caught Marco? I should have asked
I
it
can.
earlier, but if you'd give it to us,
Sure.
I think the
So,
fellow would be
yeah,
interested.
so it's kind of a long story, but I won't try to bore you too much. But I got a phone call one night from one of our deputies who told me that they have some friends that bought a dog from Belgium. It was a personal protection dog, and they were unable to handle it because it was too much for them. And so my first thought was, well, they watched one of the dog movies and bought an Malinois, and now they can't handle it. So I ended up calling the folks. Very nice, amazing people. She kind of explained the story of how they bought a protection dog for their daughter. It didn't work out. They brought the dog back to Oregon, and it was just too much for them to handle, too much energy and all that stuff. So we made an appointment. I went out to see the dog and test him, and you could tell he just was used to getting away with kind of everything. And so he was a Dutch dog, which that's been, every dog that I've handled for the office has been Dutch, so I know all those words. And as soon as I spoke Dutch to him, he kind of like looked at me like, oh boy.
no.
Oh, boy. You know that word? Like, okay, like I'll start. And he started listening, and so we did some testing with him. We liked what we saw, and so they donated Marco to us for free.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so I worked with him for 6 months. Training, kind of getting him dialed in. We were able to certify as a K9 team before my promotion. Short time, we worked about 2 months together. And then we selected Deputy Chermanov as the next K9 handler, and she's been working with him ever since, and they're doing great.
I just think it's a testament to the sheriff's office and how we handle our canines in order for someone to even reach out to a deputy in order for it to come through that process. I think, as Commissioner Cameron mentioned earlier, there's been a lot of criticism for law enforcement over the last several years, unfortunately, but there are members of our public that don't feel that way, so much so that they would give something that is very emotionally important to them into a line of work, into our office, knowing we would care for them in a way that is, I think, to the highest standard. And as I mentioned before, maybe because he lived with these people kind of in a residential setting, he has a different approach, but he's a great dog. I mean, they're all great dogs, but there's just something different about him. I mean, when I approached him, he was less curious. He was more like receptive, like, hey, can I come and pet you versus you pet me? Because he was very much interested in being all up in my business. And I find that to be really important in our community because law enforcement is intimidating, and those dogs are exceptionally intimidating. I don't know why anybody would get into a dog suit and run from one of them, but good for him. And so I just think it's awesome, for a lack of probably better words, that our office was considered as the recipient of this animal. And also, the price of them it's very expensive to purchase a canine, not just on the outset, right? I mean, I know the whole training once we get them is very expensive, but to consider the animal, I mean, I've heard where we've sent people overseas to spend time wherever they are bred and raised to select, or even to California. It's a very important role. So thanks for sharing the story.
Yeah,
And thanks to the
absolutely.
family that considered the sheriff's office for this.
Yeah, they're fantastic. In fact, we're friends now, and so they get their time with Marco still, so they get to visit and all that. kind of
I
stuff,
did
so they
meet
love
the
it.
dad last year at
Eric?
the open house
Yeah.
at the PSB. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
very tall, right?
Yes,
Yes. Yep. I remember his tallness.
Yep,
So
they're fantastic people.
yeah.
Something else I wanted to add just before we wrap up here
Thank
is
you.
even though we did talk about recruiting and how we need good people to work for the office, I think that's really the key is we need good people.
Yeah.
I don't think there's actually been any lack of interest in working for the sheriff's office, but we have certain standards and we have certain understanding of the character of the individuals that are going to work for us. And so I think that's always the challenge is when you have a high bar, you need good people to meet that standard. So I just want to provide some context around there because it can seem sometimes like, oh my gosh, there's a crisis hiring the sheriff's office. Like, well, Portland has a crisis. Like our crisis is a little different than
We're selective.
than
We're in
some
a selective
some other
crisis.
places. I mean, part of our problem is that we have a high bar. That's not a problem. That's a good thing. We want people with good character in that office. So.
I'm glad you mentioned that. That's why I became a commissioner, so I couldn't meet their bar. Just one other thing, Jason. I mean, I've did a ride along with you in Rolo, right, years
Yes.
ago.
Yep.
I never heard you speak Dutch. Can you say some things in Dutch?
Oh boy.
The guy that doesn't
Just
like
give
public
him a
speaking.
command.
Can we put you on the
Give the chair a
That's my
command.
favorite thing. I didn't
He made an analogy as if you were a dog. Why don't you make an analogy as if he's a
Well,
dog?
the two important words are Stellen and Los.
Okay.
Those are the important ones to remember.
What does that mean?
Well, the first one's bite, and the second one's let go.
Noted. Can you write this down?
So when I'm in that dog suit, I'm just going to say Loesch. All right.
Yep.
That's
Good.
funny.
Hey, all right. So we will.
Would you like me to make a motion?
Yeah, we'll have a motion and a second, and we'll vote, and then we'll read it.
Great. I move to approve a proclamation declaring May 12th through the 18th, 2024 is National Police Week in Marion County.
I'll second the motion.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
Before the Board of Commissioners for Marion County, Oregon, in the matter of proclaiming the week of May 12th through the 18th, 2024 as National Police Week in Marion County, a proclamation. This matter came before the Marion County Board of Commissioners at its regularly scheduled meeting on Wednesday, May 15th, 2024, to proclaim the week of May 12th through the 18th, 2024 as National Police Week. Whereas the week of May 12th through the 18th, 2024 has been declared National Police Week, and
Whereas members of the law enforcement agencies in Marion County play an essential role in safeguarding the rights and freedoms of our residents. And whereas it is important that all citizens know and understand the duties, responsibilities, hazards, and sacrifices of their law enforcement professionals, and that members of our sheriff's office recognize their duty to serve the people by safeguarding life and property, by protecting them against violence and disorder, and by shielding the innocent against deception and the weak against oppression. And
Whereas the women and men of Marion County Sheriff's Office Enforcement Division unceasingly provide a vital public service, and now therefore the Marion County Board of Commissioners, in gratitude for the dedicated public service and sacrifice, hereby proclaims the week of May 12th through the 18th, 2024 as National Police Week in Marion County, dated in Salem, Oregon, this 15th day of May 2024.
I'm just saying, if you don't know what the date or the week is, then you weren't listening, because it is in this proclamation a lot. It's like in there
Alright.
5 times. Probably, yeah, that's probably why I got to sign it next. I know, I'm sorry, my fault. Yeah, I'll stand down.
Somebody go over on that side.
They do criminals, all kinds of things.
Let's see.
where are you going to be?
Turn in. There you go.
Do you want to go right there? Okay. He's asking Kevin, go ahead.
Ready? 3, 2, 1. Oh, I got 4.
Look past the camera.
3,
Hey, this photography picture.
We were so close.
Yeah, so I might.
It's always good to see you, Matt.
All right.
We lost a commissioner.
That's okay. We still got two of us. She'll be back. And we got it. We got to keep moving.
Okay.
Let's see. I think it's your turn anyways.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the consent agenda. Under Assessor's Office, approve Amendment Number 2 to the contract for services with Retail Lock Box Incorporated to add $75,000 for a new contract total of $265,000. And extend the term date to June 30th, 2025 for lock box services to support the Treasurer's Office and the Tax Collector. Approve a resolution approving fiscal year 2024-2025 county assessment function funding assistance grant. Under Board of Commissioners, approve an order delegating authority to the Marion County's Chief Administrative Officer to execute an incoming funds grant agreement with the Oregon Criminal Justice Commission in the amount of $659,765 for the Behavioral Health Deflection Grant Program. Under Health and Human Services, approve Amendment Number 7 to the incoming funds intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Health Authority to add $83,922 for a new contract total of $10,549,668 for program element 40-02 Women, Infant, and Children WIC Nutrition Services Administration. Approve Amendment Number 5 to the incoming funds research subaward agreement with the Oregon Health and Science University to add $77,698 for a new contract total of $460,212 for a funding allotment for the dates of October 1st, 2023 through September 30th, 2024 for the Title V Maternal and Child Services Block Grant. Approve the contract for services with Robert Michael Wolf, MD, in the amount of $540,000 for direction and oversight of all behavioral health systems, medical operations, and medical staff providing services for psychiatric care. Under Human Resources, accept the 2024 Marion County Compensation Board recommendations for elected officials' compensation and forward the recommendations to the Budget Committee. Under Information Technology, approve Amendment Number 1, the incoming funds intergovernmental agreement with the Salem Area Mass Transit District to add $140,000 for a new contract total of $280,000 and extend the term date to June 30th, 2029 for shared technology services. Under Legal Counsel, approve a quitclaim deed for the release and quitclaiming of any right, title, or interest in a vacated right-of-way for a portion of Cordon Road as referenced in Exhibit A from Marion County to the Saddle Club Apartments, LLC. Under Sheriff's Office, approve Amendment Number 2 to the purchase order with Santiam Memorial Hospital to add $39,491.01 for a new contract total of $139,491.01 to cover adults in custody, medical invoices, and anticipated expenditures through June 30th, 2024.
I second the motion.
We got a motion and a second. Any further discussion? We haven't had that long of a one in a long time.
I'm so glad I didn't have to read it. Thank you.
All right, yeah,
You've taken some hits in the past, so it was my turn.
worked out good. Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye, great. Okay, first item under action is finance, I believe. Jeff?
Nope, we did an action item.
We
earlier,
moved,
so it's
we moved the
used
assessor's office, so,
there. Our agenda has bright red lines on it, yours does not.
we could have moved, a $9,950,000 loan to consent too,
Or
right?
not.
Actually, there's some things you asked for.
Yeah, I know.
On your desk. So, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, thank you for allowing me to be here today. I'm Jeff White, the Chief Financial Officer for Marion County. We have discussed with you before today a resolution that we would like to ask you to sign and approve in order to borrow $9,950,000 for the county. That financing is to take care of several projects, capital projects around the county. About 7.5 million is for general fund funded projects, and about 2.5 million is for health and human services projects. The debt service for this loan will be approximately $910,000 for the general fund and about $300,000 for the health and human services fund. That's estimated. We don't have the actual rates yet for the loan. Yesterday, an invitation went out to over 37 banks to provide a proposal. Those are banks that some firms that are working with this are used to working with in terms of government financing. We expect to have a good response to that. Once we receive those, they'll be evaluated and we'll select the product that gives us the best interest rate and has the best terms. We're seeking a 15-year loan. The resolution itself has a few highlights in it. It has a lot of pieces to it, but a few things I would highlight. It will give the CAO the authority to deal with all the details of those documents. There's a 1-inch thick book that'll have to get signed when those come around. It will provide in there the ability to recapture any funds we spend before June 12th. That's the estimated closing date for the loan. We have a few projects that have kind of started with some initial engineering work, and any of those dollars that we spend prior to June 12th with that resolution will allow us to pick those up as part of and cost them towards the loan. The loan is backed by the full faith and credit of the county, which means generally that any non-restricted funds are available to make those payments. When we met together to discuss this resolution, Commissioner Cameron, you'd asked for some information. I placed that on your table in front of you. We'll go over that just briefly. The first document, the question was, how are we within our legal debt margin? That means what statute allows the county to borrow. It doesn't always mean it's what you can afford, but statutorily what we could. So I gave you it's the page out of our our audited financial statements. And what I'll show you there is that the calculations are based on real market value for the county, and we have, as of June 30, 2023, over $57 billion of real market value. That means we could borrow up to $1 billion of general obligation bonds. Those would have to be passed by voters. We don't have any of those at all, so we're free of that. The next limitation is we can borrow up to 5% of that number, which is about $2.8 billion in terms of pension obligation bonds. We do have some pension obligation bonds. There's about 23 million of those left. They'll be paid off in 2028 or 29. So we are 0.8% of what we're allowed to borrow is outstanding. So less than 1% of our pension obligation bond ability has been used. The number that we really look at is the limited tax obligation area, which is where these capital loans come from. That limitation is 1% of the real market value, which is $577 million. We have $31 million of debt outstanding. As of June 30 last year, there's some chicken scratching down here at the bottom where I reflected the payments we'll make in 23-24, about $3 million. That'll bring us down to about $28 million indebtedness. Our new loan adds $9.9 million. Using last year's real market value, that puts us at about 6.6% of our available borrowing capacity for limited tax obligations. The second and third sheets are
Before you move on.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I just ask you a question, Jeff? What's the difference between a limited tax obligation versus a pension obligation, or pension obligation bond?
Well, the pension obligations are specifically in statute for any kind of pension debt you may have, unfunded liability with PERS, or if you're not a PERS participant, any other pension debt you have that you want to fund with bonds.
Yeah.
The limited tax kind of covers everything else any other kind of borrowing we would do.
So what would be the difference between the limited tax obligation and general obligation bond then?
General obligations, when you go to the voters to get put a tax on them to make the payments on the bonds.
So limited tax obligation, the Board of Commissioners has the authority to
Yes.
borrow that money without
Yes.
voter approval. Is that the
Correct.
difference? Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, perfect, thank you.
Okay, so the next two sheets are kind of the same information in a couple different formats. If we go to the big one first, that's the schedule back to 2014 of what our debt was, and brings it forward every single year, the payment amounts. On the very far left, you see the original loan amount, but you can see where the payments terminate by that kind of gray area. It's really small to read. I just like being able to see it in one large sheet. You can kind of see that stair step of when we pay things off, and it goes through 2037. The smaller sheet is the same information, just instead of one big line across, you get 2010 through 2017 on the first line, and then the second line is 18 through 25, and so forth. I hope that provides what you're asking for, Commissioner Cameron.
It's perfect. Yeah.
Okay. So with that, I would say that Marion County, I think, as long as I've been here, has been fairly conservative regarding borrowing. We don't carry a lot of debt, certainly some. We have some needs for capital expenditures, and we've done a lot with those dollars, those loan dollars, building several buildings last years and taking care of some major needs. This is another time where we need just a little bit more to handle some improvements. So with that, I'd entertain any questions, or if you'd like to adopt the resolution, that'd be super.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
I actually
Commissioner.
would like maybe Jan to make a comment, because I see at the top of this document, the Courthouse Square debt service is expiring in 2024. And I know that you had a lot to do with that, and this must be a pretty happy year for you.
It is a wonderful year. I mean, my goodness. When we went through the remediation of Courthouse Square, you know, it just happened very quickly. We moved 300 people out of this building into areas all across Salem, and it took 4 years while we remediated this building before we moved back. It's been 10 years now, so it is nice to see that pay off. The whole debt service, it was like $1.5 million annually, and it's pretty much dedicated to the jail and the G-Pod too, so getting that open on behalf of the board.
Well, congratulations. That's
Yeah, it's
20 years of
great.
work getting to
You know-
this day.
Like Jeff said, we have been very, very financially conscious of and making sure our fiduciary duty is followed. When we borrow, we've borrowed for PSB. We borrowed when the interest rates were so low and most counties or other entities hadn't thought about it. We got the juvenile building in the court, the health building, the PSB building.
Which is, what's the PSB for people who don't know?
Public safety building for
Yeah.
the sheriff's office out there. You know, so now when we're working on the evidence building, this'll cover roofs that, some of the older buildings we have need roof and HVAC. And we have really done a great job, I think, like Jeff said, conservative fiscally, but really smartly invested our money and borrowed
Yeah.
appropriately.
So Jeff, I just want to make sure I can reconcile this in my head here. So if I look at your hen scratch down at the bottom, right?
Oh, yes.
So we'll have debt of 38 million, right? 210. And the annual debt service on that will be projected 2024 about 9,600,000, right? 9.6?
The debt
Okay.
service for 2024?
Yeah, projected, it says budget projection 9.6.
In total for all of our debt, yes. The line right below that is the portion the general fund will have to pay,
Okay,
which will be about 3.5 million. The biggest chunk of that, if you look up, is the PERS obligation bonds. That's $5.7 million of that total. Those are paid for by assessments against payroll.
Oh, yeah, I see the PERS debt is in there. Okay,
And
yeah.
that's the biggest chunk of that number.
Yeah, but where did you get where did you get the,
If you see the yellow line kind of across the bottom.
oh, I'm looking at the
Sorry.
summary page.
You need to-
Okay, got it.
yeah,
All right,
right.
thank you. I just wanted to equate how much we owe versus what that cost us out of general fund. I got
Yeah,
it.
and we added
Thank
that
you.
line on the bottom to show the general fund cost.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Commissioner, with your permission, I'd just like to make a comment that probably deserves a lot more explanation. But when I see an interest rate of 1.99% or 2.86%, and the inflation rate today
Yeah.
was 3.7%, I think, 3.6%, that means that we have, in real terms, a negative interest rate.
Right.
That means that over time, we are paying less real money each year. That's an unbelievable deal. I mean, that is really a historical anomaly
It's only a deal the government can get.
that should never happen. Well, no, because some people got low rates on their houses.
Yeah, but no negative interest rates. I'm just saying, because I bought a house 2 years ago, and they didn't give me a negative interest rate.
Well, in real terms, I mean, there are people who have 3% mortgage rates
Right.
today.
Yep, or less.
So if inflation's 3.5, they are, in real terms,
Sure,
they have
that's true.
effectively a negative interest rate. Which again, it's, to your point, it only happened because the government artificially pushed down the rates.
Right.
But it was sort of like a chance. There was a moment in time where you could get a really good deal for the people that you serve. And I'm proud that Marion County had the wisdom to do that, because it's going to benefit all of us financially long-term.
In fact, I bet some counties reach out from other states in the future to talk to you and Jan about how we do what we do here, because last week when we were down this timber conference, I had the opportunity to talk to some other state presidents about what's coming in my next week, and this was a conversation, and they were like, what do you guys do to be so successful with your debt and your borrowing? And I said, well, you're gonna have to talk to smarter people than myself about that. So.
And we don't spend too much.
And we don't, well, that's the fact. We don't spend too much. And in fact, I think we prioritize our needs. And that priority obligation is super important to the Board of Commissioners, but also to the taxpayers. I pay taxes here, and I do not want to have a government that's in debt to things that aren't really producing real live important services. And I didn't know any of that before I became a commissioner, but it's definitely a testament to both Jeff and Jan and former commissioners who supported this work.
You know, it was definitely good timing and good planning and good thinking to borrow during those years.
Yeah.
For those needs. We're not going to get quite that same rate now.
Yeah, of course.
But because I forgot to mention this part, because we're borrowing under 10 million, we may wonder why we're always doing these 9.95 million loans.
Yeah.
That allows us to get a tax exempt borrowing rate, which is less than it would be otherwise. So we've tried to keep those loans, again, to keep the interest rate down even more. We don't have to do that. We can borrow 15 million and pay another % or so, 1.5% higher to get the non-tax exempt rate, but we try to stay on that limit to be helpful.
And we've set the county up for employees as well as constituents in the building for the next generation. I mean, you usually do it on a 30-year timeline, and I think we have really viable buildings that will serve us well in the decades ahead.
Jeff, I could sit here all day and get educated. I want to say thank you to Jan and even John when he was here and the previous boards, because what we did do is I've always believed that you can borrow on an appreciating asset, but not on a depreciating asset. You borrow on a car, just drive it out the door and you lose money. But we borrowed on things that I remember getting here, and we were going to invest $10 million in that parking structure across the street. And I said, what? And we had buildings that I could put my fingers through, the juvenile building, and we did it to build new public safety buildings and juvenile buildings and health buildings and assets that the people of Marion County will be very proud of for many years to come. And we did it through this, and still. And I always remember this, that the borrower is always servant to the lender. And when you think of the citizens that we borrow on behalf of, we don't want them to be,
Beholden to anybody.
servants, right?
Yeah.
Right, beholden to somebody else. So I think we've been very good stewards of this. And I thank you for your department and all the work that you've done to help keep us informed and educated. And this was, you put this together overnight, and thank you.
We actually are.
But I think it's really important that I wanted it to be public knowledge, where people, if they are watching this or this, that this is on the record, that we are transparent with this stuff, and we're not just borrowing money and throwing it out the door someplace. And the one loan in here that really gets me is the PERS, right? I mean, that's a tough one, but we won't go into that discussion.
Other than it keeps our rate lower.
It
And
does.
it expires in 2028,
Right.
which means a big jump. So we'll
That's
be
a whole
looking
nother,
into
that's a
that
whole
one.
nother subject, yeah.
Yep.
So, all right, I guess we need to approve this.
Okay, I move to approve a resolution authorizing the financing of real and personal property in a not to exceed principal amount of $9,950,000 for multiple necessary capital projects.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks for the emails last night, too.
Go get it before interest rates go up. Actually, I heard on the news this morning that maybe September the feds are looking at doing something. We'll see.
Shocker, right before the election? No way. This is me shocked.
You're so cynical
Yeah,
at such a young age,
But
Commissioner
inflation's
Bethel.
ticked back up. Okay,
Yeah.
Health and
Thank
Human
you.
Services, come on,
Give me a
Ryan,
break.
we built you a building, so get up here, right? You built it. All right, consider approval of amendment number one, incoming funds, intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Health Authority to add $632,960.21 for a new contract total of $20,864,726.37 for the aid and assist project through June 30th, 2025.
All right, that was a mouthful. All right, thank you,
It was,
Commissioner.
and I had, yeah.
So, good morning. My name is Ryan Matthews. I'm the administrator for Marion County Health and Human Services, and I am here seeking approval of Amendment 1 to our intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Health Authority. This contract is for our role as the community mental health program in Marion County and primarily funds mental health and addiction treatment services for our non-Medicaid population. This particular amendment that is adding the $632,960.21 is due to a funding formula error and a correction that Oregon Health Authority is looking to make. So as the initial wave of contracts were sent out for approval, it was identified that the funding formula that was used for the aid and assist allocations was incorrect. And so the promise was, once everybody signs that initial agreement, because that was a behemoth to sort of get out and get approved across the state, that then the first order of business would be to do an amendment very quickly to correct those funding allocations. And so some counties saw some money taken away because they were allocated funding in error. And in our case, we were set to receive this $632,000. I do want to say that for those that don't know what aid and assist is, 'cause that's not, a logical term, this is a service that we provide to people who are deemed unable to aid and assist in their own defense. So if somebody has criminal charges pending and there is significant mental health challenges that they can't really participate in the trial in that way to support their own defense, they are subject to these dollars, and to traditionally there is going to be some inpatient hospitalization associated with a good percentage of these individuals, and then others are assigned to community restoration, which is where our role fits in. So we provide community restoration services, legal skills training, and other supports to kind of stabilize individuals and get them ready to ultimately be deemed able and go to trial, or if they're never able, then it would be deemed that they're not able to ever aid and assist in their own defense. Part of the reason that this funding is really important is because there has been some policy changes based on a Judge Mossman order that set parameters at the Oregon State Hospital based on, arbitrary timelines rather than really determining that an individual would no longer need hospital level of care. And so individuals are being released from the Oregon State Hospital based on specific timelines, and then it becomes the county's responsibility to try to provide community restoration and wraparound services for those individuals that may need housing supports, that may need medication supports, a wide range of activities that we fund out of these dollars, and to provide those supports for the individuals that fall into this population, and also really to assure public safety across Marion County. We also use our aid and assist funding to pay for a community restoration monitor that is housed in the sheriff's office that's a part of this team, as well as a portion of the deputy district attorney that manages the docket and keeps track of these individuals and the status of those cases through the district attorney's office. So kind of a wide breadth that these funds touch, not just within our department, but these are really, really important because this is a a really high-need population and one that's, ultimately a significant public safety concern, for us, and I know certainly for you, and so we want to make sure we have sufficient resources to be able to manage this population appropriately. So that's why we're here seeking approval of this amendment. I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
I do have questions.
Go ahead,
Thanks,
Commissioner.
Ryan, for that information. Mostly, I'm curious. So because of the Mossman order, we saw, which was ordered in September of 22?
Yes.
We saw at one point kind of a tripling of our aid and assist numbers. I think we went from like the low 20s to the high 70s, and then now we're back down to the 60s, or are we in the 40s
Right.
now?
I think right now we're at about 55, I think, at the
Okay.
last count that I had. But yeah, traditionally we were around 20. We've been in the 70s, and we've kind of hovered between like 50 and mid-70s kind
Okay.
of since that point.
So this $600,000, is it to cover the gap of that increase? Did they do an actual market analysis on the cost of service that we're putting out? Or is this some arbitrary OHA wants to pat us on the head and say, sorry, we screwed up and we're gonna try to help you make ends meet?
This is actually to get us to the funding level from last biennium because
Oh,
of the funding
God.
formula error.
Yeah.
There was additional funding, and I know we'll be talking about this in our upcoming budget conversation as well. So House Bill 4002 and then the subsequent bill that was sort of the funding, which I think was 5234, I could be forgetting. There was 7.5 million for aid and assist was earmarked in that bill
Yeah.
and that was approved, and that is being awarded. It's not yet in our contract, but that is that funding formula is being kind of finalized. I think we're expecting around $500,000 or so coming to Marion County for that allocation. That was based on the Association of County Mental Health Programs
Yep.
did a cost study across the state. We all submitted like what it costs us to do services, and that $7.5 million ask was to get at that unmet need, and that was especially true of a lot of smaller counties that had basically no allocation at all for aid and assist, and of course they're having to ramp up because of the Mossman order and some impacts to them. So that $7.5 million is intended to fix some of that gap. It doesn't get us all the way where we need to be, but it helps stop the bleeding a little bit and does account for the increases in caseloads and increases in workload. Yeah.
Okay. And that 7.5 million really is only gonna look at the 2023 numbers.
You're always kind of looking back,
Yeah.
And so, as this population continues to grow, as the needs continue to grow, and as communities have to invest more just to have resources, like, for example, we have 37 transitional treatment beds that we lease
Yeah.
across the county just to make sure that we have some place to place individuals so they're not either out on the street and we lose track of them, or they're not, in jail where they can't get treatment. And so, communities are going to have to keep investing in those kind of resources, and then that's going to drive more costs and those kinds of things. So.
I loved how you said for people to stay, to choose to stay, because we can't
Yeah.
force them to stay there. This is
Correct.
one of the caveats of
Yeah.
this program that's really frustrating to me, is that the state hospital pushes them out into the county, into a system that doesn't have adequate statutory services available to them. And then we put them in a very expensive leased space for them to choose not to return to, so they can just go right back to the street, frankly, where they came from. And it's just like we're lighting money on fire and still not helping people. I mean, I'll take this money from them, of course, because I know we need it, but this is probably one of the most frustrating topics and service areas that we engage in the county that the public just really, truly doesn't understand. I mean, it's taken me 4 years to really get to the frustration level that I'm at. I can imagine what, the public would feel if they really understood the transparency, the failure of the Oregon Health Authority in taking care of our most sick neighbors.
Well, and the real issue is people are getting hurt, right?
Yes.
I mean, basically, the state hospital is releasing individuals into our community who need a higher level of care.
Yep.
And they're saying, oh, don't worry, community restoration will take care of it. But as you pointed out, no one is required to do community restoration. I mean, they may be on paper, but they can walk out the door whenever they want. There's no limitation on their freedom. And we had a situation where one of these individuals went and assaulted teachers at Highland Elementary School
Right.
last year. So this is not like a theoretical thing. The state hospital forcing people out of the state hospital and releasing them into our community without the appropriate level of care for those individuals is a current and ongoing problem. And this does not solve that problem. And I think it's really important that you point that out. That doesn't mean that we don't do good work under aid and assist. Doesn't mean that there aren't certain people who should be served under the aid and assist program. There certainly are. But the challenge we have now is there are people the state hospital is forcing into our community who are not appropriate really for aid and assist, and they're hurting individuals in our community because of that.
Yeah, and for their own safety as well. I mean,
And for their own
they
safety.
need an inpatient it's not only
Yeah.
for community safety, public health, or, public safety concerns, it's really for the safety of themselves, where they are in an inpatient setting, they're receiving medications, and once they're released, again, we can go to these transitional treatment beds and offer medications every day, and we do. We send people to do reminders and to try to ensure that they're on the appropriate medications, but they can refuse to do so, and we can't do
Right.
anything about it. So yeah, this funding certainly doesn't fix any of the issues, but it allows us to manage the difficult situation as best as we can with
Yeah.
resources. So.
Ryan, I'm really grateful for your team.
Yeah,
Really, I know
they do a great job.
I
They
know
really
that
do.
the Behavioral Health Crisis Center team and the MCRT teams and frankly, a significant amount of our enforcement team in the sheriff's office, they do the very best they can managing these populations. It's difficult and it's scary, but your team specifically, aside from law enforcement, they really put themselves into some really unpredictable situations to hope that they're caring for people who can't care for themselves. It's never stated enough. I feel like we should, we do a lot of proclamations around here. We should do a proclamation
Crisis
for.
workers, they don't get their own proclamation.
No, but
you're right.
maybe we should make one up for Marion County. I'm not joking because I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't. I wouldn't want to be an officer, and I would not want to be a behavioral health provider that interacts with individuals who potentially are going to come and physically harm me because they're out of their mind because of their mental health. I don't think the public understands. I just don't. And I also don't think we do enough appreciation of those individuals that do that work, frankly. I mean, it's an honorable profession
Yes.
to put yourselves in a space where you truly are caring for people who just cannot perform safe functions for themselves and hope, potentially can engage in harmful acts upon you. So, Jan, I want to talk about that. I don't know when that happens, but I think that we should have a conversation and come up with a resolution or a proclamation to honor the people that do that work, because it needs to be skylighted. The media doesn't do a good enough job on it at all.
We could have a flyover, at the beach, how they have the planes, they pull the banners, that when they do their.
That's not where I thought you were going with that.
That's good, I like that, I like
Because they
that.
do a picnic. Are you gonna do the picnic again this year?
We do have our employee picnic. It'll be in August, I believe.
I
Yeah.
went last year,
See,
it was
we
great.
could honor it that week.
Yeah, anyway, thanks for letting me go on. I just,
No. I love any kudos that they can get. It's well
Yeah.
deserved.
yeah, well, please pass it on for us.
Will do.
Okay.
It's Commissioner Willis's turn.
Yeah,
Okay. Mr. Chair, I move that we approve amendment number 1 to the incoming funds intergovernmental agreement with the Oregon Health Authority to add $632,960.21 for a new contract total of $20,864,726.37 for the Aid and Assist project through June 30th, 2025.
I second the motion.
yeah, motion second. Any further discussion?
Yeah, of course. I just want to add really quickly that we're not really talking a lot about the burden on the court for this population.
For sure.
I know that Judge Broyles has done a pretty great job of highlighting the challenge the court is facing because of the Mossman decision. But I just want to take a moment and acknowledge on the record that if we didn't have a healthy relationship with our circuit court judges in this space, we would be much worse off. And I think the folks that can't care for themselves would also be much worse off. So just to acknowledge those judges across the street from us that do a significant amount of lifting to try to help force the state to do their job when they won't do it to care for those folks.
All right.
Thanks, Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. Anything else?
Nope.
Good. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thanks,
Thanks,
Ryan.
Ryan.
Thank you, Commissioners.
All right, Public Works. We have a adoption of an administrative ordinance granting zone change ZC case number 23004, Fresh Hour Holdings LLC and DKG Holdings LLC.
Before we begin, Commissioner Cameron, look how much trust that Brandon has in his team. He's not even here.
Yeah.
This is like, the rest of the planning team is here, and Brandon's like, they got it, no big deal.
All right.
All right.
John, welcome.
Thank you. Good morning.
Be sure to introduce yourself for the record. It's your first time here today, right?
For the record, I'm John Speckman, Associate Planner with Marion County.
Welcome to the boardroom.
Oh,
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, so the Marion County Hearings Officer held a duly noticed public hearing on March 7th, 2024. And on April 3rd, 2024, issued a decision approving the request. The board received the decision and held the application for the mandatory appeal period. No appeals were received. The ordinance and findings have been prepared and notice of adoption was given on May 1st, 2024. The administrative ordinance is now set for formal adoption. Unless there is an appeal, the zoning code provides that the board does not have to hold a hearing on this request because it is for a zone change only. The comprehensive plan isn't changing. The underlying commercial comprehensive plan designation will remain the same. And I can stand for any questions.
All right.
Can you just quickly, I'm looking at the executive summary for the record. Can you just tell us what, I know where LaBranch is. I bet these two don't.
Oh.
Can you just give us a highlight of what this is?
Yeah, so these two properties kind of back up against each other between State Street and LaBranch. They're both zoned commercial in the comp plan and commercial retail in our zoning. They've been used for quite a long time for multiple family residences.
Right.
2 duplexes on the State Street side with a single family dwelling, and on the LaBranch frontage property, 2 single family dwellings. So it's a non-conforming use in commercial retail, but by switching to commercial office, it becomes conforming and allows them to expand and build more units, and it still fits with Salem's underlying comprehensive plan.
So their goal is to build multifamily housing here?
I think their goal is to, initially this conversation began with concern about would we be able to rebuild because it's a non-conforming use. And that's where we started discussing, whether they could expand. I think their long-term goal is to expand, and as per the density of that area, each property could have up to 12 units. It would
Wow.
require significant redevelopment to do so, though.
Yeah. Just for side note, I lived in that house. It's on the record when I was a kid.
Oh, that's
I was like, I recognize that address.
All right. Anything else?
No, I don't
All right.
have anything
We'll
else.
take a motion.
All right, I move to approve an administrative ordinance granting zone change case number 23-004, Fresh Hour Holdings LLC and DKG Holdings LLC.
I second the motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I hope they don't do multifamily housing. So you can pass that. I'm sure they're paying attention.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Thank you.
Okay.
Nice to see you here.
Yeah, welcome, John. All right, next, still under Public Works. Consider approval of construction contract with National Wood Treating Company in the amount of $103,116.29 pennies. Provide timber fumigation treatment for various bridges in Marion County through December 31st, 2025. Ryan, welcome.
Good morning. For the record, Ryan Cruther, Marion County Capital Projects Manager with Public Works. And like you said, I'm here to talk about our timber bridge fumigation contract. So our objective for this contract is to treat 27 wood structures. For those of you who haven't been below many of our bridges, this is the amount of wood we have on some of these structures. We have a significant number of wood structures in the county.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oops.
Pro cutting trees in this county. I'm thrilled with that.
We typically replace them with concrete, but
I know, but I don't encourage that, so I'm just saying.
yes,
You could look into mass plywood paneling.
yes.
You could. It competes with concrete, just for the record. Okay.
So our project scope includes removal of existing spent cartridges. So what this is it is a chemical that actually treats the wood to prevent rot from the inside and insects that create that rot. We all know we have a lot of rain in Oregon. We've got the climate that can lead to wood rotting. These were treated timbers typically, but they've been in place for a very long time. So what we do with this is extend the life of these bridges. We remove any spent cartridges. We try to get to each bridge every 10 years. We install new cartridges, which this is MITC Fume is the product that is used, and it is a very difficult name to say if you actually use it's there's a chemical name for it that I cannot pronounce.
We're not scientists. We wouldn't know what it
yes.
is anyway.
So we also get bridge reports with this. project. All right, so we got one bid from National Wood Treatment Company at the price of $103,016.29. Per the contract, they're required to have treated all these bridges by October 15th, 2024. Many of these bridges, because they've got to get in the water, they have to do it at a certain time of year for that in-water work, and that is typically in the summer. So they would do this all this summer and have it done before winter comes. And with that, do you have any questions?
I don't have any questions. I'm glad you're treating them so they don't fall.
Yes.
I do not. Commissioner, you good?
I'm good.
All right.
It's your motion.
Make a motion.
I'm sorry. Okay, Mr. Chair, I move that we approve of the construction contract with the National Wood Treating Company, the amount of $103,016.29 to provide timber fumigation treatment for various Marion County bridges through December 31st, 2025.
I second the motion.
You have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Good. Ryan, thank you, as always. Appreciate your pictures. All right, we have a couple items under the sheriff's office. First one is to consider approval of incoming funds intergovernmental agreement with the following cities to provide law enforcement services from July 1st, 2024 through June 30th, 2025. City of Aurora, City of Jefferson, and the City of Sublimity. Welcome back, Commander.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. For the record, my name is Jason Bernards, and I'm the Enforcement Division Commander for the Sheriff's Office. Yes, today, so we're talking about 3 patrol contracts. For this, one is for the City of Jefferson, for the City of Sublimity, and also for the City of Aurora. The first one that I have here is for the City of Aurora, and that total is for $239,803. It's a slight increase from last year, and that's for one full-time position, contract position up there for 40 hours a week. The second is for the City of Jefferson. Let me find it here. This is a little bit larger contract because this is for 3 full-time deputies up there that provide coverage. So this contract is for $704,644. That's a $15,000 increase. That's just because of the movement that we had in those positions. The deputies make a little bit more money than the folks that were there last year. And then the last one is for the City of Sublimity, which is also for one full-time position for 40 hours a week. And that contract is for $241,427, which is about a $4,000 increase from last year.
Okay, questions?
Nope, I was just looking for
Important
the,
work.
what is it, the overtime, but it's noted on the,
Yeah,
Itemized list.
overtime is included in there. Just for special, I don't think we use a whole lot in Sublimity or Aurora, but is for special occasions if we're working a case and we want to put some other folks that don't necessarily work in that city, kind of give them some resources, so it's there as well.
thank you.
Commander, just a question. So if I'm the deputy assigned to Aurora, I know a lot of our deputies work 12-hour shifts.
Yes.
So up there, do they work shorter shifts, or do they still do a 12, or does it varies, or?
I believe in the contract cities, they're on 4 10-hour shifts now, so they work
Okay.
4 and then have 3 off.
Okay, all right. Any further discussion?
No, I'm glad we have these relationships with these cities
Yeah,
for the coverage.
take a motion.
I move to approve the incoming funds intergovernmental agreement with the following cities to provide law enforcement services for July 1, 2024 through June 30th, 2025. The City of Aurora with a contract total of $239,803. The City of Jefferson with a contract total of $704,644. And the City of Sublimity with a contract total of $241,427.
I second the motion.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think you're still here, right?
Well,
Unless Lieutenant Wilkinson.
it looks
wants
like your, your names are both.
It had both their names by it, but, all right. Consider the readoption of the following 4 county ordinance and declaring an emergency. And the first ordinance is prohibiting a violation of a posted restriction for use of a public right-of-way in county parks or on state, federal, or tribal properties. Second one, an ordinance prohibiting entering or remaining unlawfully on the property of another. The third, an ordinance prohibiting littering. And the fourth, an ordinance prohibiting the discharge of firearms at live standing timber without permission from the property owner. Lieutenant.
Yes, again, I'll introduce myself. Lieutenant Matt Wilkinson, Marion County Sheriff's Office. I am the lieutenant that oversees our East District. And that's where these ordinance originally started, is after the wildfire in 2020. These ordinances were enacted in 2021, but had a sunset date of 2023. We're asking for the board to reenact these 4 ordinances. These are a great tool for our patrol deputies to be able to enforce collaboratively upon public lands, as well as private lands, specifically the entering and remaining unlawfully on a property of another. But the collaborative work on our public lands, this allows us, under the posted restrictions of use, to be able to issue citations into justice court for any violations upon our public land parks. These parks include BLM, Bureau of Land Management, U.S. Forest Service, Oregon Department of Forestry, and state parks. If they have their restrictions posted, we can enforce those via this ordinance and send the citation or the subject into justice court. A couple of these mirror also criminal law, which is entering or remaining unlawfully upon property of another, which would also be trespassing as a criminal offense. This allows it to be issued as a violation citation and not needing to go in front of the district attorney's office that is very overburdened with other cases of higher priority. This doesn't negate the fact that if we have an egregious trespasser, that we can't send a case in front of the DA's office for review and prosecution. And that's the same with littering. Littering also has a criminal nexus or ORS that we can also send those depending on the egregiousness to the DA's office. These are as an emergency order. The parks do open May 15th, which is
Yesterday?
today.
Today, the 15th.
Today. So exciting day for the North Fork and opening up our public lands. These are definitely good tools for our deputies to ensure that our recovery from the fires, the work that Public Works has done to ensure that our parks are safe and clean as they open, and that the work they put in, the trees, the brush, the cordoned off areas, those are not trampled and ruined. Those are assist with that posted restrictions of use. So.
All right. Okay, good. Any questions?
No.
All right.
Gotta do it.
Okay, so what I need is a motion.
Is this my motion?
Yeah, for the chair to read the ordinances by title.
Title only once as an emergency.
Commissioner, since these are 4 separate ordinances, I'd probably recommend that the board take action on each in turn.
Okay.
So that it's clear that the board is enacting all 4.
Yeah, I've got the titles of each one of them. So what, Scott, what you're recommending is that we readopt the following county ordinance and declaring an emergency, and I'll read the title once.
I'll make 4 motions. So I'll make a motion, she'll second, we vote, you read the first one. Make a motion, second, we vote, you read the second one. I think that's what you're recommending, right?
That's
Correct.
what he's asking.
So that way.
That's what I just said, right?
Okay.
Yeah, correct. So
It
that
is clear as mud.
each one is
Being passed individually
is
as an
being passed
emergency. Got
individually,
it,
so that
great.
it's clear that all 4 are being
Yeah, and
adopted.
Scott, I know Brenda and I talked last night, you're saying I only need to read the title by once. In the past, we've had to read title twice. So can you explain that just so we're all on the same page?
By statute, when the board elects to read by title, it only needs to read by title once.
An
So,
emergency?
Not just in an emergency, but whenever the board elects to read an ordinance by title only.
Okay.
So, because if the board does not choose to read by title only, the entire ordinance needs to be read. So the board can elect to read by title only, and if it does so, it only needs to read by title only once.
Okay.
Thank you.
Clear. Got it. Okay. So you're going to do all four motions then?
I will.
Yep.
Okay, so Mr. Chair, I move that we approve an ordinance prohibiting the violation of a posted restriction on the use of a public right-of-way in county parks or on state, federal, or tribal properties.
I second the motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Did you say title once in your motion?
I did not.
Sure. You want to restate the motion that the chair would read it by title once?
Yes, okay. Mr. Chair, I move that we approve an ordinance prohibiting the violation of a posted restriction of use on a public right-of-way in county parks or on state, federal, or tribal properties, and that the chair read the title of the ordinance once.
I second the motion.
Okay, now we have a motion and a second. So, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. The motion to approve an ordinance prohibiting the violation of a proposed restriction of use of a public right-of-way in county parks or on state, federal, or tribal properties. Council, is that good? Now, do we need to vote on that again?
No, you don't need to vote on that again. I would point out that the caption of the ordinance finishes with "and declaring an emergency."
And declaring an emergency. I was going to do that at the end of all four. Okay, got it.
All right.
All right.
If you're ready, I'll make another motion, Mr. Chair.
Yes, please.
I move that we approve an ordinance prohibiting entering or remaining unlawfully on the property of another, and that the chair read the title of the ordinance once.
I second the motion.
Okay, by emergency, right?
By,
All right.
do I have to say that it's an emergency?
No.
I will.
Oh, okay.
Okay, approve an ordinance prohibiting entering or remaining unlawfully on the property of another and by emergency. Oh, wait, we didn't vote. You seconded the motion, right?
Yep.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. And approve an order prohibiting entering or remaining unlawfully on the property of another and by emergency, and declaring an emergency. Okay,
Mr.
Next.
Chair, I move that we approve an ordinance prohibiting littering, and that the chair read the title of the ordinance once.
I second the motion.
we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 And approve an ordinance prohibiting littering and declaring an emergency.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I move that we approve an ordinance prohibiting the discharge of firearms at live standing timber without permission from the property owner,
Second the motion.
and that the chair read the title of the ordinance once.
Sorry, and I second that motion.
Approve an order, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. What are you laughing at?
Anytime, you are welcome to try this.
All right, so, and approve an ordinance prohibiting the discharge of firearms at live standing timber without permission from the property owner and declaring an emergency. All right.
Mr. Chair, if I may, I just want to say that I really appreciate the team that spends a lot of time during the year, but particularly the summer months up around the North Fork corridor. We hear often from residents up there about littering, trash dumping. I know that is a messy job, but I seriously, Lieutenant Wilkinson, really appreciate the effort that you and your team put out to make sure that we find the people that do that. I find it to be, well, words are at a loss for the people that go up into the woods and choose to throw their trash rather than take it to the transfer station, i.e. the dump. It's just despicable to me. And ever since the fire, there's been additional damage and harm to those property owners up there with additional dumping. I appreciate the residents that reach out to the Board of Commissioners, but also I just want to say for the public, when you see things up there, we want you to call into non-emergency and make a report, because the only way we know is if you report. And our deputies do everything they can to follow up as quickly as possible, but it creates a track record and it helps the Board of Commissioners with priority assessment and awareness, with that awareness of information when we're going through kind of navigating the budget and looking where we should be resourcing specific areas of the county. Litter's a big deal, but also the standing timber. You mentioned in the work session, the management update, I think a week ago. This had never occurred to me. I mean, I have firearms and I go out and I target, shoot. When those timbers come into the mill, if one of those bullets is lodged in a tree and it hits a saw, that could kill somebody. And it just I know that should be common sense to the average person who discharges a firearm, but frankly, it's just not. And so this is to not just protect the timber, but also to protect the people that do the work of timber in our communities. So thanks for being diligent with this and bringing it forward to our attention so we can be proactive.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Before you leave, and I'm going to open a public hearing with this, I got this gavel in my hand.
I thought he was going to follow you.
How did this weekend go with the hot temperatures up Little North Fork? Did we have any issues or?
Nothing that rose to a level of reporting, or all the way up the chain. So
The water is still very cold
It's very
up
cold
there.
and very dangerous. We did not have any calls of drownings. Thank God.
Right. Okay.
So that is obviously one of the biggest things is getting that awareness, not only on the North Fork, with that cold mountain water coming down and the warm weather, but also the debris in Detroit Lake.
Yeah.
I'll point that out again. And our crews for the work center and U.S. Forest Service are working right now to clean those lakes and keep those safe. So.
Yeah, good, thank you. And this weekend's gonna be cooler, so we don't have to.
Yes, and it's fishing derby weekend.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah,
At Detroit Lake.
It
yeah.
is.
Okay, thank you, Lieutenant, appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna open a public hearing to consider an amendment to the Marion County Comprehensive Plan to concur with the City of Silverton urban growth boundary. Austin, you were laughing at me. I know, you were just smiling.
He's just
having fun.
entertained by us. He's gotten used to the circus that we perform here, and he's participating.
It was a good lineup of things you guys had today, and so I also wanted to see them to see this and what is board session and what does it look like and everything. So
Just normal people.
There are worse board sessions. You've seen us.
I've seen some things. This was a long one, but a generally positive one.
Yeah. This is not the longest board
You've been on the
session, so you're
receiving end
welcome.
of other types of questioning from us, I know.
All right, let's go.
All right.
Good morning, Commissioners. For the record, Austin Barnes, Marion County Principal Planner. The City of Silverton has proposed an amendment to its urban growth boundary and has held hearings and adopted an ordinance to add 40 acres of land for public recreation. Because establishing or revising an urban growth boundary is a cooperative process between the city and county, the city has requested the county concur in the UGB amendment. On April 10th, 2024, the Marion County Board of Commissioners approved a resolution initiating amendments to the county comprehensive plan to consider concurring in an amendment to the City of Silverton urban growth boundary and schedule a public hearing for May 15th, 2024. The City of Silverton is proposing to expand its urban growth boundary by 40 acres to create a new city park on the eastern side of the city. An analysis was conducted by the city that identified a need for 30 to 50 acres of recreation land near Pioneer Village as a priority and 115 acres overall for the entire city. This plan was adopted in the 2008 Silverton Parks Master Plan. The city identified a variety of types of parks that the city needs and a variety of means to provide more parkland within the city. The analysis found that a 30 to 50 acre park on the eastern side of the city was first identified in the 2008 master plan. This is in part due to the fact that the east side of Silverton is growing with new residential development. Additionally, they identified an overuse of 2 existing parks inside the city. This analysis was supported by public outreach the city did when updating its parks master plan, as well as 2 city council meetings where neighbors attended and discussed the park and potential impacts. The city's findings support the boundary expansion, that priority of land to be included within the urban growth boundary, and address Goal 14 factors and the statutory provisions for an amendment of an urban growth boundary to include sufficient parklands within the boundary. Throughout the city's process, staff communicated with the city's planning director, Jason, who is here today. No issues were identified that needed to be further addressed. Upon approval of the urban growth boundary amendment, the land would remain outside the incorporated city until it's annexed and provided with services. In order to apply an appropriate urban zoning until the land is annexed, staff recommends the public zone to be applied to the parcel. Staff also recommends that the board concur with the City of Silverton Comprehensive Plan Urban Growth Boundary Amendment and direct staff to prepare an ordinance approving the amendments to the Marion County Comprehensive Plan by adopting the amendments to the City of Silverton Urban Growth Boundary of 40 acres for a public park. And I will stand for any questions you have.
Questions for Austin? Nope. Okay. Did you want to come up and speak? Because there's nobody signed up for public comment, so welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is Jason Gotkatru. I'm the Community Development Director for the City of Silverton. I'd like to thank Austin. He did a great job covering all of my notes, so I don't really have anything else to add. Just briefly, the Ikamuni property, as we call it, is a 40-acre piece of property that was donated to the city by Larry Epping in 2000, shortly after 2008, after the city conducted our public outreach for our Parks and Rec master plan and identified that property as the best property for the park on that east side. When we approached Mr. Epping for possible acquisition, he ended up just dedicating it to the city. So the city council is looking to develop that as a passive recreation park with walking trails, hiking trails, and biking trails, and a disc golf course. There's not necessarily funds budgeted for that. We have some other parks projects that we're working on, but this will lend itself to expanding our parks and recreation facility on that east side of town that doesn't have a large-scale park currently.
Okay. Questions?
No, I actually have one question. It looks like it's, because I don't actually know this section of Silverton, is this a parcel of land that's kind of surrounded by a neighborhood?
The Pioneer Village area is directly to the south of the property. There's a portion of the city limits that's to the west of the property that could develop with another approximate 110 dwelling units.
Wow.
So there's about 460 total down within that area.
Okay. Is there, in this plan, and would you be master planning and parking, so it's not like hindering the neighborhood or future neighborhoods of people who want to come and recreate here?
Yes, yeah, I'm actually meeting with Marion County Public Works on Monday to discuss access to the site. Generally speaking, the northeast portion of the site is the only really flat portion.
Okay.
And that's where the best access and parking would be located, which would provide parking for the site, but also be kind of away from the neighborhood. Where those residents will generally be able to walk to the site. There's an existing concrete staircase leading from Hawk Drive up to the site,
Okay.
which kind of ends to nowhere currently, but the intent would be to have the pedestrian system built out from the existing neighborhood to the north.
That's great. Okay. Thank you. Thanks for that information.
All right. Austin, you're off the hook, I think, so I'm going to close the public hearing,
Nice to meet you.
and I'll take a motion.
I move to approve an amendment to the Marion County Comprehensive Plan to concur with the City of Silverton Urban Growth Boundary.
I second the motion.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Okay, let's go park. Aye. Go to the park.
Okay.
Thanks, guys.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Anything you want to talk about?
Sure. I mean, last week you and I traveled down to California to participate and attend the Western Interstate Region Conference, which is a conference of Western states and Minnesota and South Dakota and Montana. Somehow the Western region just continues to
They're
expand.
west from DC.
15 member states, right?
Yeah, 15 member states. We actually adopted in the western side of Minnesota to the Western Interstate Region, not the whole state of Minnesota, at a board meeting on Friday. I was there in my role as the Association of Oregon Counties president, And Commissioner Cameron was there in his role. He serves in natural resources for the Board of Commissioners for Marion County. And I've been to a few conferences since I've been a commissioner. The goal is always for me to learn what other counties are doing. I don't like to start from scratch, create something new all the time. If we can kind of borrow, repeat, and excel at something that's already being done to really benefit the citizens of Marion County, that's my goal. And I would say WIR, that's the acronym for Western Interstate Region, was one of the most informative conferences I've been to because I was there with peer county commissioners that live in regions similar to our own. And we went on several tours together with other county commissioners who have experienced wildfires in their regions. The first day we were in Yosemite National Park. I should put that on the record because that's where we were, and they have had some major natural disaster wildfires. But then also their most recent wildfire was based on a chain spark that came off the highway and lit up over 1 million acres within the park. But the learning part of it was I have been frustrated since before being a commissioner with the lack of attention and real priority, I would say, the state of Oregon through Oregon Department of Forestry, the governor's office, and probably other partners at the local level, but also USFS, U.S. Forest Service, and Bureau of Land Management in collaboration with the county on being proactive in our natural spaces. Timber harvesting is an issue for me, and I think a lot of our community members, but that real lack of collaboration, I believe, led to the fire that we had in 2020, in the Beachy Creek fire. And on the first tour that we went on, I spent time with the senior, I think captain was his title for USFS in the Yosemite Park, and he talked about the collaborative agreement that they have with CAL FIRE, which I recognize Oregon does not have CAL FIRE, which is kind of a blessing and also a curse, I suppose. California is on fire all the time. They need an agency of that size that's funded that proportionately.
They fight we have the Oregon State Forestry Department that has a fire department in it. That's what CAL FIRE does and more down there.
Sure, but it's just a much more robust agency.
Right.
But talking to that captain about their agreement and how they process things, and then sharing with him the fire that occurred up in the canyon and how it started on USFS territory and what just really wasn't acknowledged as a threat, then becoming a very serious threat to our community. He was pretty surprised. In fact, he's going to be sending me the agreement that he has with the state of California and Mariposa County, because they see the counties differently in the state of California, not necessarily the state, but USFS. And he just shared some really good information that I believe that we'll be able to kind of deploy into the work we've already started when Commissioner Willis and I were back in DC talking to USFS about this collaborative agreement between the state, the county, adding the county, bringing us to the table as a real valid asset and partner. It just kind of doubled down on my sense of urgency of wanting to really create this agreement. And it's a thing we don't have to create. It literally exists in many states, specifically the state of California, which I kind of see as a dictator-type state over their counties. And then talking to other county commissioners and other state presidents about the challenges that they're facing, just kind of in the economic development space in their natural resource area, their recovery space in those burned areas. I spoke to one of the commissioners from Lahaina in Maui, who's actively managing the recovery, and learned a substantial amount of information from her in about 15 minutes on...
She asked some pretty common sense, practical questions too.
She did. I mean, I am frustrated by being a commissioner in the state of Oregon because of the politics at our state level, for sure. But I do not envy her to be in the state that she is in, with the region that caught on fire and the challenges that she's facing with FEMA and with her state particularly, and what I consider robbery of private land from the citizens who live in that environment for generations that's going on. And the work that she's doing as a county commissioner, the way their government operates is a little different. because their city councilors kind of have the similar authority to a county commissioner. But I learned the methodologies that they're going about to protect that land for families who have been in poverty generationally, have been victims of the tourism industry over there for generations, and how they're using the land use model, not the land use model, the land, what is it, where you own the land and then you put a house on it?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Land trust model, thank you, which I'm highly opposed to as a commissioner in Marion County. But she found kind of a loophole in the law that allows for a more, I would say, protective land trust model to occur for those landowners. And I'll share this more with you later, Commissioner Willis, because it's something that I'm going to follow through on for the families that haven't been able to recover in the county up in the San Diego Canyon because of the cost of recovery and the challenges that they face just because of family history or whatnot. There's other opportunities out there. My point is this conference for me was very beneficial. I believe it will be beneficial, the knowledge I'm bringing back to the community here in Marion County to recover our citizens who haven't recovered in the wildfire, but also move forward in a more aggressive manner with a document that's already designed through the state of California with USFS in a way that gets us a seat at the table, in a way that makes us very valid and acknowledged, which I think is super important for any future disasters that might come in wildfire.
I think as you were talking, I've been actually thinking about the land trust model because it's in other places, other countries are talking about it. And I think the fundamental problem with it is that at the end of the day, the government actually owns everything. Right? The people don't actually control their own destiny.
That's right.
And in a situation where maybe like Hawaii, or if you're on an island and like there's only so much land, you're stuck.
Yes.
Right? I could see where you sort of have to make some compromises that you might not otherwise make.
Yep.
But Oregon, all the people live on less than 3% of the land of Oregon. So the idea that we would basically put the government in charge of all the property because, oh my gosh, people can't afford to have land, that's literally ludicrous. We're the size of Germany. Germany has 80 million people. We have 4.
Yeah.
Like, there's plenty of land for people to own their own homes at a reasonable price. We just need the government to be willing to allow people to own their own homes. The state government. That's really the bottom line.
Federal. There's federal property.
Well, in federal, that's true, because the federal government owns so much of Oregon as well,
Sure.
So,
63%.
and I'm convinced that we can still keep what we love about Oregon. We can still keep urban growth boundaries. We can still keep the green spaces and the forests. We are not, we do not have to, all of a sudden, pave paradise into a parking lot.
Yeah.
We just need to allow people to buy land and maybe, I don't know, 4% of the land or 5% of the land people could live on instead of 3. I mean, it's really, we're talking about very small amounts of land that you have to open up for development to really bring the cost of housing down so that people could afford it.
Yeah. Well, it was a long week that was full of a lot of learning and collaboration and partnership development, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to go and represent Oregon in that space. And I'm grateful, but I'm mostly grateful for the knowledge that I took away from commissioners that have been in their seats for much longer than myself, battling issues that we're battling for much longer than we have in some cases, and just kind of building a team of other states that really want to be tackling these same issues together in a way that I think represents our communities. And whether you're in western Montana in a timber area, or you're in, I would say, southern-ish Oregon, like Douglas County, they look the same. I mean, I was looking at photos of the two regions kind of side by side, talking to one of the commissioners from Montana. The trees are different. They're a different type of tree, but the environment is the same. And they're facing the exact same issues that we're facing, and they're 15 hours away from us. I don't know why I'm surprised by that. Maybe you should be frustrated, but grateful for the opportunity to meet those commissioners and learn what they're doing and bring their ideas here to Oregon to try to fight for what is right for our community. So, and I'm glad I was able to be there with Commissioner Cameron and his knowledge of natural resources that I just don't have yet.
Well, you said buy land, and I was just thinking of that Jordan Davis song, Buy Dirt.
Yeah.
You know that song?
Yeah, I do actually. Sandy Emery just put it on her Facebook the other day.
Buy dirt, yeah. All right.
Anything else?
Get us out of here.
We got
Thank
a
you.
little trip to make today,
Yes,
all
we
right?
do.
We will adjourn.
So what she's doing in Maui